Hi class, Tyler here with an informative speech on the Xbox and the PlayStation. History reveals the dramatic changes in video gaming. CNN author Larry Frum wrote, "The landscape of gaming is definitely in flux. The development of new technology is expanding the reach of quality games to more players. Over the past 30 years, video gaming has evolved into a well-oiled machine for the entertainment industry. Now it's not just teens that are into gaming, but it's more of a family fun pastime. The average gamer spends 8 hours a week playing video games, and developers work extra hard to see that they do just that. The two largest competitors of the Sony PlayStation and Microsoft's Xbox have further advanced this hobby that has 67% of Americans glued to the TV. But why? I'm an avid gamer myself who started off with the first PlayStation and worked my way all the way up to the PS3 and then decided to do something different, so I switched to the Xbox 360 just to get a feel for it. I was then faced with a huge decision: what to buy for the 8th generation, the PlayStation 4 or the new Xbox One. To further go into the spontaneous burst of gaming in households, I will begin by explaining the power these two platforms have had on gamer enthusiasts. And also right here is the graph that I chose that shows the dollar sales in the billions from 1996 all the way up to 2008, and you can obviously see how it gradually goes up each year. In 1995, boundaries were broken with the dawn of Yahoo and eBay. The first Sony PlayStation was also the first one to release a line of consoles on the European market. The PlayStation was the first to establish the compact CD-ROM format disc for games, leaving the old cartridges obsolete and dominated with its sophisticated dual analog stick controller. 102 million units were sold compared to the 33 million Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturns of this era. The sixth generation ushered in the new PlayStation 2 of March 2000. This huge leap of gaming platform was fixed with a DVD-ROM drive instead of a CD-ROM drive, capable of playing movies and increasing game density tenfold. The PlayStation 2 introduced a new kind of graphics card or synthesizer that expanded the unit's processing power. It had 38 megabytes to memory, 4 to graphics, and 2 to sound. Its backwards compatibility that allowed the old PS1 games to be played on the PS2 drive was what made this console a must-have for gamers. The developer software for the system was so easy to work with that the vast amount of PS2 game titles is still the largest library collection of games to date. In 2007, following the rapid format war from Microsoft's Xbox 360, Sony strikes back with its 7th generation PlayStation 3. The built-in Blu-ray drive trumped the Xbox's HD DVD drive and was geared for disc with a single layer of 25 gigabytes of storage. The PlayStation 3 remained fully backwards compatible and stocked with a revolutionary cell broadband processor. However, it proved to be too complex for third-party developers to handle, lacking optimization for PlayStation 3's early titles. The full potential of the PS3 is still a mystery, and the details of its processor raises the question as to why only certain titles of games be played on the PS3 and not the Xbox 360. Both Xbox 360 and the PS3 sold roughly 80 million units with strikingly similar graphics. In 2001, shortly after the release of the PlayStation 2, Microsoft made its first attempt at a game console. The original Xbox came built with a DVD drive of its own and an 8 gigabyte hard drive for media storage and game saves. Additionally, it had twice the computing power of the PlayStation 2 which allowed it to play the groundbreaking Halo games and would never have been possible on the PS2. Although the PS2 sold more units, the Xbox was backed with the financial support of Microsoft, gaining it a foothold in the American and European market. You can see here that the PlayStation 2 sold 154 million, while the Xbox only sold 24 million, but it was ahead of its time and it had better computing power. A few years later, the Xbox 360 was born, showcasing many more similarities to the PC. It was by far the most competitive leap as far as hardware and media storage. As the DVD was stretched to its limits, the HD platform's drive provided for better high-pixelated files, but the many layers could not provide adequate storage for game data. This was an unfortunate case for the 360, being that it was shipped with an insufficient external DVD drive, and later upgraded to an external HD DVD drive via USB. Regardless of its early launch shortcomings, Microsoft strengthened the 360 with its 2007 Elite model that came with an HDMI output, giving the picture greater detail and higher definition. Not only was the hard drive removable, it ranged in different capacities, extending its varying degrees of storage. The later refined machine, with the addition of the Kinect sensor, quickly became a superior multimedia platform people loved. Now, as we move into the 8th generation of platforms, we can already see an immense growth of computing power, with Blu-ray being the standard for both new machines stocked with a built-in hard drive. Sony states that the PlayStation 4 has 10 times the amount of processing power from the PlayStation 3. Its new octa-core AMD Jaguar processor has an x86 formatted chip with a more universal code for easier programming. This was a huge achievement compared to Sony's last mistake with the PS3 Cell. For its memory, it utilizes 8 GB of GDDR5 for both graphics and system memory. It can calculate 176 GB per second, making it beyond modern upon its release, but much more simplified than its predecessor. The upgraded hardware allows for 60 frames per second during gameplay, along with playing back video at 4K resolution. That basically means that it supports HD displays with up to 4,000 pixels on the TV. Overall, its GPU, or graphics processing unit, is in fact more powerful than the Xbox One by 30 to 40%. It comes equipped with a removable 500 GB hard drive for an additional higher density drive. One of the main aspects Sony has brought to this system is the ease of programming, an advantage game developers have for making more titles capable of running on the PS4 platform. Shuhei Yoshida, president of Worldwide Studios, says that we foresee that PlayStation as a platform will evolve into more of a service offering in addition to the hardware offering, so we can expand our reach beyond our own hardware. Microsoft has worked tirelessly on delivering the Xbox One with its complete bundle, including the Kinect sensor, which is much more responsive than the last and can perform facial recognition for quick sign-ins. Like the PS4, the new Xbox is built with an octa-core AMD processor with a CPU operating on a 1.6 GHz frequency. However, Microsoft claims that their late-stage tuning has bumped this number up to 1.75, giving it a much more stable processing unit than the PS4. The Xbox One's memory has a committed 8 GB of GDDR3 RAM, which is nowhere near the amount the PS4 is capable of, except for the fact that the Xbox One comes with an embedded 32 MB of static RAM, which again is theorized to put out more calculations than the PS4. However, this complexity will still make it difficult for developers to work around. Another big concern is the amount of memory and processing power being used by the Kinect sensor and Windows 8, drawing too much away from the gameplay capabilities. It does have a 500 gigabyte internal hard drive that cannot be removed. Eventually, Microsoft will later release external memory source, hopefully. Both consoles do have an independent audio block, but the Xbox One's is twice as powerful than the PS4, which means the HD audio processing power for the Xbox One is less demanding. And finally, we get to my favorite part, which is graphics comparison. On the left of the red line, you see the PlayStation 4's graphics for the game Battlefield 4 being the example. And on the right is the Xbox One's graphics comparison. One of the things that this gentleman pointed out on his YouTube video was that the Xbox One's was a little higher in contrast. You can actually make out the fine details in his knit cap where the threadings are, whereas the PlayStation 1 is a little bit darker as far as saturation goes, and everything's a bit muddled and muddy right here on the side. However, though, if you look at the skin tones, you really can't tell much of a difference. It's just really minute, and it's very, very close as far as graphics go. So that's really a decision that you'd have to come up with on your own. Not that it really makes much of a difference, but there's the inside scoop. And he was also using Photoshop to render everything in its highest resolution, just as it was. Okay, and here is an overall comparison for the 8th generation. First, you can see the pricing, that the Xbox One is obviously $100 more expensive, but you're paying for the Kinect sensor that comes with it and a headset. Whereas the PS4, you're only getting the console and the controller for $400. Hardware, you can see that they both have a AMD Jaguar 86 8-core processor. Whereas the GPU on the PlayStation 4 is slightly better with a 1152 SPU. Pretty much everything else you could see for yourself. Whatever's in the blue is basically the advantage that console has. Whereas down here you could see for the signal and for the output that the Xbox One has the HDMI, whereas the PlayStation 4 doesn't have that. So it's very close competition. Okay, here's another quote from Larry Frum in CNN. Sony is going after the hardcore, dedicated gamer, while Microsoft is positioning their device as an entertainment hub for the whole family. Either way, both are expected to do very well and create a huge demand for games and other content well into 2014. Before I bring this to a close, just remember, not one console is necessarily better than the other. If you are trying to decide on which one to buy, you must look at how you want to mold your gaming lifestyle. For quicker gameplay action and a solid assurance for more title releases, you may want to go with the PlayStation 4 for its sophisticated GPU, or if you have a big family and like to do multiple things on one TV, like switch to movies, sports, or search the web, the Xbox might be the best for your massive entertainment needs. No one will truly know these platforms' true strengths until more developers work and release other games for the consoles in our future. Big things are yet to come, and the gaming industries are already looking for more improvements on the 8th generation of our gaming world. Thanks for watching.